Oh, should we sing the song now?
Do it.
It's Yoga Sutras time. Do 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 do. I can't sing it all. It's Yoga Sutras time. You could come sing, Ma.
I've got it in my nose.
And no comments yet, but that looks like Roz. Hello, Roz. Hello, everyone.
I cannot sing.
You're not going to sing either? Yeah. That is Raj. Raj Banavara is there. Hi, Raj. And I think that looks like a Nilesh there. Hi, Nilesh. And there's Joe. It's Joe Moreau. Hello, Joe Moreau. And so, and there's Roseanne again. Do. Yeah, see that. You see, so do.
Move over. Hi, everyone. I'm just taking up some territory because otherwise, yeah, there. We're in the middle now.
We're in the middle now. Do. And Cord is over here quietly sitting on the couch.
He came back. We did something nice last week.
Well, yeah. You gave him some chocolate hummus, huh?
Mm.
Or something.
It's nice to have him back.
So, yes, nice to have Cord back.
Yeah.
Cord is off of
we
his
speak about him as if he's not in the room.
Yeah,
right now.
but you know, we mean well.
Yeah.
But he lives something like 50 miles away from here.
But he has a cool motorcycle.
And he has a big motorcycle and has a work schedule that he's free on Wednesday. And so it's a good time to visit.
Yeah. Roseanne says.
Oh, you got a high ma do.
And a high Cord.
Roseanne says hi, Cord. Roseanne is in Rio de Janeiro. Nice lady, very sincere about this stuff. Hangs out with us a lot. And there's Guten Morgen, Hashim. Hashim is near Frankfurt in Germany, which is totally irrelevant where people are, but anyway, so we have fun. And so we are...
Und wir können ein bisschen Deutsch sprechen.
Ich spreche nur ein sehr bisschen Deutsch.
No.
That's about all I know. Now, I was doing a retreat in winter of 97, around February of 97, with a group of Germans. About 10 Germans came to the ashram in Rishikesh.
Hi, B.
And it was, hi, B. When are you going to get a picture, B? That little gray thing there. And a funny thing happened. All of a sudden, we were spending, all day together. And all of a sudden, I actually started remembering German. It started coming out of my mouth. I had studied 2 years of German when I was in my late teens in school.
Ach so.
So some of it was in, or maybe 3 years. Some of it was in what in US they call high school. And a year or two of it, I don't remember which way it was now, so long ago, was in college. I studied some German. And so it had been sitting there lingering in the unconscious for, 30 years?
Roseanne is being nicely smart.
I am at Abhyasa Ashram now.
So not in Rio de Janeiro, but she's here.
Yeah, yes, it's pretty much true. She is always here in heart. But I would sure love to have you be here sometime in physical form. We should try to figure out how to pull that off one of these days. And if it never happens, it's okay. It's all okay. But that would be nice. Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah, sometimes she goes to Portugal.
She does? You go? That's right. You go to Portugal.
Sometimes, I don't know if that's regular or was just a one time, but I know she's been there. And so Portugal is not very far from her.
Maybe when you go to Portugal, did you hear that sound? That was a sucking sound. We can suck you a little bit further up that way and get you to show up in Holland.
Yeah, or I'll go to Portugal.
Or we'll all go to Portugal, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I
Not
see.
that far.
It's not that far. Yes, yes, yes. We're not sure which that is.
Sie sprechen sehr gut Deutsch, sagt Raj.
Oh, Dankeschön. Who's sprechen sehr gut Deutsch? Me?
Dich. Whatever. You.
Ich spreche sehr gut Deutsch? Nee. Nicht sehr gut.
Nicht sehr gut.
Nur ein sehr bisschen. Ein sehr bisschen. I know that.
Schön. Das ist schade.
Huh?
Das ist sehr schade.
But I do know that I learned it well enough long ago. I never learned it really very well. But if I were to live in Germany, I would be able to relatively easily learn it from other people and pick it up.
Yeah, but that always helps. Ja, sehr gut. Sehr gut.
Ja, sehr gut.
Yeah, that should be a T.
That's, yeah, sehr gut.
I think. I'm not.
It's supposed to be a T.
Good. Yeah, very good with it.
Anyway, what does this have?
I like that all their nouns have capitals. Every noun in Germany has a capital letter. So it's very hard to distinguish between the little s self and the big S self because there's no little s self.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But you have to, and here comes trouble. Here's Jean Frank. Jean Frank is from that foreign country called Pennsylvania.
Jawohl.
Do you say jawohl there? Hi, Jean. I'm just teasing, of course. Jawohl, says Raj.
Raj lived in Germany for a while, so that's why he also
Raj
speaks
is
German.
from Kannada state in Mysore in South India, but now hails from Savannah, Georgia. You'll probably see him here before too long, unless you run away over the Christmas holidays and disappear.
Yeah, he's here during that time.
He will be here for a week or 2 weeks, I think, right?
At least a week.
At least a week.
Maybe one.
Raj will be here. He's a pretty nice guy.
Can I show off my new Hindi sentence?
Okay, here we go. Get ready, everybody. Here comes the Hindi.
Because I have a bunch. Nilesh is here, right?
And Nilesh is here.
Is
Nilesh here? Was Nilesh here? Yeah, Nilesh is here. Yeah. He didn't type, but we saw his little picture show up.
मैं नहीं हिंदी बोलती है. Who? Oh, I did it again, Raj. Yeah.
You did what again?
I made a mistake. मैं नहीं हिंदी बोलती हूँ. I do not speak Hindi. मैं थोड़ा हिंदी बोलती हूँ. I speak a little Hindi.
I am practicing. I know how to say no Hindi. No Hindi. This is one of the things I learned while I was in India, that if I learned a couple sentences very well, and I would say it to an Indian person, and I would say it very well, I would say it so well that they thought I spoke Hindi. And all of a sudden would come back this flurry of Hindi. And then I have to say, no Hindi, no Hindi.
But it's a fun language. I'm enjoying the sounds.
Well, the people are fun. People are fun. Language is fun. I find.
I always try to learn a few words.
You just spoke Hindi, Nilesh said.
Woohoo!
You know, I don't know. Did I ever tell you, Nilesh, that I learned that there's only one sentence that I needed to learn in India? And if I learned this one sentence, and I really got a lot of mileage out of this sentence, that if I used this sentence, every problem would be solved. And it mostly had to do with being in your home. See?
तुम बहुत अच्छा हिंदी बोलती हो, माँ. I speak very well Hindi.
There's a Hindi poster in the ashram kitchen.
Yeah, there with the baby. With how to deliver a baby?
Oh, yes. Well, yeah, that was one of the things that
that
it's a, what are you going to get? It's a poster that would be used in the villages, and it's how to have a sterile baby birth, how to be a midwife. And so it has a picture of sterile razor blade and a picture of a string and a needle and like that.
How to communicate something with as little as possible. That's
anyway, I'll tell you my sentence, Nilesh.
Okay.
It is Bahotacha Kana He. If I could say that, if I came into your home, I would win over your wife, and you don't count for very much. It means this food is very, very good.
All you have to say in an Indian family.
Yeah,
just eat and eat and eat.
And eat and eat and eat. And if the food is very good, if you honor the cook, then everything else falls into place. Yeah. But anyway, so that's what that sign is in the kitchen is, because that was one of the things that they would take up into the villages in the mountains, trying to teach the people how to do that. Anyway, should we talk a little bit about the Yoga Sutra?
Let's do that.
Okay, the subject we're on today. What?
Nothing. Swamiji is better. It means better than Swamiji. So I speak very I speak very well Hindi. He says better than Swamiji.
Of course, I know that. There's no competition there.
That's a new word for me.
I am absolutely certain of that. Because I am an extremely poor Hindi-speaking person. I know that. And I have the greatest excuse for the reason why. Because most of my time living in India was not spent out being a tourist, going from here to there and staying in hotels and bouncing around in various cities. Most of my time there was spent in the ashram of Swami Rama. And when I traveled, it would be for a short time, a little bit at a time. The people in the ashram, the Hindi speaking people in the ashram, they were all trying to learn English. So I could not get nobody in the ashram would help me learn Hindi, because they didn't want to help me learn Hindi. They wanted to learn English. Now, I know that sounds like an excuse, but it happens to be the truth. So I was useful helping, the cooks and the gardener and all learn to improve their English. And I would get a little word here and there of Hindi, but not very much. And so that was just my lifestyle when I was there. And as most of the Indian people know, the most of the higher education in India is done in English. That's because the country was occupied by the British for several hundred years. And so they installed higher education in English medium. So the more educated people, which is more of the people that I would meet who would come to our ashram to do retreats, etc., they were more the educated people, and they were in school from early childhood. They learned English, and so it was very natural for them to speak English. Anyway, that's my excuse. I'm sticking with it, and I hope that's okay. What are you doing?
I didn't want to talk with my Hindi teacher.
And so she's sitting here texting Raj on the side.
Are we starting with the Yoga Sutras?
I don't know.
What are we going to do today?
Today we are looking at, I forgot to bring up.
Oh, no.
I forgot to bring up this other one. Let's get ourselves positioned here. This is where we are. I'm going to turn that off. And so we are in chapter 2, and we are looking at the benefits of the Yamas and Niyamas.
Oh, good.
Last couple times we went to great length talking a lot about the nature of the Yamas and Niyamas and what to do when you're not practicing ahimsa and cultivate the opposite. We talked about what is yoga and vairagya and abhyasa, practice and non-attachment, levels of concentration or samadhi. We talked about Om mantra, obstacles and solutions, important principle of stabilizing the mind. We talked about minimizing gross colorings, gross levels of habit patterns, dealing with the subtle thoughts, breaking the alliance with karma, the samskaras, the deep impressions. We talked about the 8 rungs of yoga, and that the purpose of the 8 rungs is viveka, or discernment, so that we can get past the avidya or ignorance and all that. And so here we are talking about the benefits, okay?
Yep.
Just to sort of position ourselves there. And I will now switch this over to this, and this is where we are. I'll take that out of there, Ma. See, Matri now, as most of you know, is now using the same BeLive technology for her satsangs, and she's doing a lot with the Dutchies. And anyway, so here we go. Now we're in the little bitty box, and there is the.
Can I support you with reading?
You may support.
No?
She wants to support.
The 8 rungs or limbs were introduced in Sutra 229. The first 2 of these rungs or limbs are the Yamas and Niyamas, which were briefly described in the previous section. The individual Yamas and Niyamas are further described in the section and sutras below.
And note our little graphic on the left over here. There's 4 columns. Those are picture columns in the relative size of the length of the 4 chapters of the Yoga Sutras. So chapter 4 is the shortest Yoga Sutras. Chapter 3 is the longest. And this is simply because so many of us remember things better visually. If you try to remember by looking at a book, where are the Yamas and the Niyamas discussed in the Yoga Sutras, it's not easy to remember that, because there's 196 sutras and we forget. But the purpose of these little pictures here, you see it like this, and maybe it will stick in your mind a little bit better, that the Yamas and Niyamas are somewhere near the end of chapter 2. That's the reason for that little thing there. I thought that was pretty creative thinking. Huh?
Very much so.
Very much so.
Reasons for the 8 rungs of yoga. The reasons for practicing the 8 rungs or limbs of yoga is to develop attention as the tool for discriminative knowledge.
Let's take a look at it. Okay. And there it is.
Through the practice of the different limbs or steps of yoga, whereby impurities are eliminated, there arises an illumination that culminates in discriminative wisdom or enlightenment.
And the knowledge is the jhana.
Yeah.
We don't have to be Sanskrit scholars. We really, really, really do not. Most Sanskrit scholars that I have met over the years don't meditate, and they're just, anyway. So Viveka. Viveka is one of the most important principles for us to memorize this term. It's one of those words that we really, really do want to know the original word. And you can remember that it has to do with discernment. So we remember the word in English, so we can say it's discrimination and it's discernment. But it's Viveka. Okay, all right. You see you were there.
So it's develop attention as the tool for discriminative knowledge, which is the means for true liberation or enlightenment. The Yamas and Niyamas build a foundation from which to do these subtle practices.
Now remember here, as we're going through this journey through the Yoga Sutras that we've been now doing here for a while, we're attempting as best we can to just skim across the surface here to gain a certain degree of understanding. We're not trying to be scholars and literally dig into every sutra in great detail. And so when I laid out this stuff on the website here, as I think all of you know, I put some paragraphs at the beginning here. This is all before we get to the sutra. And so this is a summary. And so if you go to the website, or if you download the PDF file, or if you get one of the printed versions of this, a way of holding it is, I just want to know what the summary says. And if you want, you can have a library of 10 or 15 of your favorite Yoga Sutras commentaries. And you pick up, you look at this Sutra 35 and you say, gee, well, I wonder what Satchidananda said about that. Gee, I wonder what Swami Veda, bless his heart, said about that. Scholar extraordinaire. So anyway.
The first rung of the 5 yamas, the first rung is the 5 yamas, which are considered codes of restraints, abstinences, self-regulation, and involve our relationship with the external world and other people. Scroll down or click the links to go to the sutras dealing with the individual yamas. So, ahimsa, non-violence, non-harming, non-injury. Satya, truthfulness, honesty. Asteya, non-stealing, abstention from theft. Brahmacharya, walking in awareness of the highest reality. Continence, remembering the divine, practicing the presence of God. Aparigraha, non-possessiveness, non-holding through senses, non-greed, non-grasping, non-indulgence, non-acquisitiveness.
And of course, one thing to remember this, I think everybody in this conversation knows this, one of the most important parts of practicing the yamas is recognizing that very often, if not most of the time, we are not succeeding at it. So this is not to beat up on ourselves, but to recognize this is the reason that it's here, that we have conditionings that come from past lives or childhood, and often even ahimsa. Sometimes we're just not as nice to a spouse or a family member or a friend as we ought to be. Our alignment of what's going on inside and what I project to the world out there may not be in alignment, and that's not being truthful. We may not be stealing, we may not be robbing banks and things like that, but we're not being totally truthful. Anyway. Okay.
The second rung is the 5 niyamas, which are the observances or practices of self-training and deal with our personal inner world. Scroll down. And Saucha, purity of body and mind. Santosh, contentment. Tapa, training the senses, austerities.
Ascesis, another word for the same thing.
Jaya, self-study, reflection on sacred words. Ishvara Pranidhan, surrender. Ishvara is the creative source, causal field, God, supreme guru or teacher. Pranidhan is practicing the presence, dedication, devotion, surrendering of fruits of practice. As one practices the yamas and niyamas, it appears that some secondary ability or benefit comes. This process is described as attainment, fruits, acquisition, etc. However, it is important to note that while these are attainments in one sense, they really result from the unfoldment of what is already there by the removal of obstacles. In the beginning of the Yoga Sutras, this was described as disidentifying with the modifications of the mind field. In a later sutra, this process is described as being like a farmer opening a sluice gate to allow the water to naturally flow so as to irrigate a field.
An example there, just a real quick example that I kind of like, is when we get there, the fruit that is described as coming from non-stealing is that all jewels will present themselves. He uses the word jewels.
Yeah, gems and jewels.
Gems.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a principle of saying that if I'm really not stealing from other people in any way, that all sorts of jewels and gems will come. And if we misapply that, we say, okay, all I have to do is not steal and I'll make a lot of money. And you hear the trap in that? It's like, okay, well, the goal is to make a lot of money, so all I have to do is be honest and I'll make a lot of money. That's what this yoga stuff is telling me.
That is
aparigraha. That's not it. It's observing. Here's a softer, simpler way to say it, and I think this will help it make sense. The notion is if I'm really living the art of not taking from others in any way, and I'm living a life of service to other people on my job, I'm doing the work for other people, my customers or whatever it is, because I have my heart in helping them, whatever it is that my job is. If I'm doing that, then the cause and effect that will happen is that I will discover in life that I am gaining whatever I need. I don't need to steal from other people.
Somehow it will be provided for.
Yeah, that what is needed will be provided. Now, in this crazy world in which we live, sometimes it seems like it doesn't work out quite that perfectly.
Because we have a lot of desires.
Because we have a lot of desires. And so, but if we're not taking and taking and taking, we discover that I can live a pretty reasonably simple life. And we were talking to a fella. I was out somewhere with Rojo today. It doesn't even matter where it was, what we were doing. And the fellow that was helping us was a very honest, very nice man. And he said, when you want to follow through on this thing, she was the customer. He said, come to me. I posed the question. I said, when there's other questions, should she come in and just talk to the staff or go to you? Well, it turned out that we accidentally ended up with the boss. And so it was the boss who was helping her with this purchase. And he said, all questions come to me anyway. If there's ever a problem, it's going to come to me anyway. So just come straight to me. Here's my cell phone number. Text me if there's a problem and I will help you. And he had said that he had been promoted into this job. I had it happen a couple days ago when I was having a trouble with the people who handle my termite inspection on the house. And I talked to the man on the phone who was the boss, and he used to be the guy on the road doing the work, and he had been promoted to the boss. And so this is just two fellas whose example was by doing a good job and serving their customers and take care of them, they were promoted to the job of being the boss. I mean, I'm just saying this as silly little real life examples of a couple of people being honest in their work, and that life has a way of working out. That's the principle of this. I think it's kind of a neat principle. Today, while talking over a tea with colleagues, I became aware of something I wanted to say that was laden with himsa, and I caught it before I uttered it, but overrode Buddhi and said it nevertheless about current politicians. The key was awareness. Well, I lost my place. The key was awareness was present all along, and also saw that how my colleagues sided with me on this issue. It reminded me of the sutra that talks about 3 ways in which this happens. I'm not quite, Raj, seeing. Oh, there's this. I was trying to get the connection.
Sure.
Yeah, okay, I'm looking at, here's the connection. I later realized that it was not so much the clash about the politicians as much as it was that I had developed the habit to be sarcastic about political affairs. This habit itself was playing out. Not sure if I'm explaining it clearly. It's hard, as you know, to communicate through the type box and tell a complete story. You've told the story. So the habit is being sarcastic about political affairs. And so that's not being very nice. I guess that's in the himsa area.
Mm-hmm. That's what he said.
Yeah.
It was laden with himsa. But he caught it, so he saw it in the mind, but still,
came out.
That's part 1 of becoming more aware, and then gradually there becomes mastery.
And then you saw the effect of
it.
And then you get to sit with that, as you know, and realize, wow, this was pretty crummy. And remember, what's the other part of that, Raj, is realizing, wait a minute, when I think like this and I let this happen, it's not useful, and it leads me to ending up suffering. I end up with a troubled mind.
Yeah, and then he also said that some of his coworkers sided with him, and so that as the other sutra that we talked about last week.
Get everybody to go along with me.
Either you do it yourself or someone else does it, or you smile when someone else is.
Yeah. Good example. Thank you, Raj.
Nice.
Okay. Oops. Did I get it off there? Yeah. So let's go back here.
In a later sutra, this process is described as being like a farmer opening the sluice gate. I thought I didn't have the last sentence, but I read that.
You read that?
Yeah, so you have to
farmer
scroll
opening
down.
A sluice gate.
So you have to...
We wish we had that video handy right now, but we don't. Matri made a beautiful video of the sluice gate.
Mm-hmm.
And the principle there is the sluice gate is a thing that is used, in a farmer's field. And the water is coming, and when you remove the little gate, the water goes rushing down the little dirt path and puts water on the seeds. The principle is, if I can say it like this, in most of our education that we do when we go off to training programs or school or college or wherever it is, most of this kind of education is one of adding information. If I can learn enough information, that adds up to an education in this particular field, whatever it is. The principles of yoga is not that. It's one of removing obstacles. And when we remove obstacles, then we see that which is already there. That's how the farmer's sluice gate works. Here's another metaphor that's saying essentially the same thing. If the sun is clouded by clouds, we had a cloudy, rainy day here.
Cold.
And cold, and you're missing the sun. What's the solution? Turn up the brightness of the sun? No. Just remove the clouds. Now, I don't know how to remove clouds to get a sunny day, but the spirit of it is that when the clouds go away, the sun is already there. And we all know this. Every one of us already knows this. The sun is not gone away, but listen to what we will say in our common language. I'll say, Ma, is it still raining outside? She says, I don't know, let me go look. And she comes back and says, no, Swamiji, the sun has not come out yet. And a little while later we say, wow, look, the sun came out. And now we can go take a walk because the sun came out. Well, the sun did not come out, and we all know it. You know, in the evening, we may look and we say, look, it's a moonrise. Look at that beautiful moonrise. The moon did not rise. The moon has been there all along.
The earth turned.
There is the appearance of the moon rising. There is the appearance of the sun coming out. So the sun coming out simply means that the obstacles of the clouds were removed. And what all of this stuff that we keep doing, trying to understand Yoga Sutras and Bhagavad Gita and Tripura Rahasya and all of this stuff that we keep doing, it all has to do with the notion of removing obstacles because the sun is already there. We are not sick people. We are not sinners. We are not defective people who are trying to learn how to be well or healthy or anything like that. We are already Atman. We are already Purusha. We are already pure consciousness. We are trying to awaken to that. What are you looking for?
I'm looking for a card with a hole.
There's one over there somewhere. That may be it on the couch there. She's looking for Matri is going to give us a demonstration here. You want to show them this one first and then that
You can
one?
have that one. This is the well-known circle chart with the question mark. And Swamiji, again, punched that hole in that. And so I'm this. I'm always here. And so where are clouds? So this is the cloud. And so the cloud is just in front of the self. So I don't have to add anything or change anything about the self. I just have to remove the cloud.
There, that did it.
Self-realization.
And so the nature of those clouds is all of the habit patterns and samskars that are in the latent unconscious that play out in the active unconscious and come out into our conscious minds and then play out through our brain and our body and all of this me business out here. So anyway, we're just beating the dead horse of pointing out again that we are trying to remove obstacles.
Like we read before that the yamas and niyamas are not being practiced because of the turmoil and stuff that's in them. A yogi becomes firmly grounded in non-injury, ahimsa.
Yeah, see, here's the actual.
As a yogi becomes firmly grounded in non-injury, other people who come near will naturally lose any feelings of hostility.
I was in a classroom in my master's degree program in transpersonal psychology in Northern California some years ago, and one of the guest speakers that came into one of the classes to talk to us told us a story. And he said, I had to make a trip over into San Francisco, and he was going to meet somebody, and the place he had to park his car was not close. It was several blocks away, and he had to walk through an area that was known to be very dangerous. It was a drug dealing area, and it was very dangerous. And when he told us his story, it had just happened a few days before, and he was absolutely quite amazed by this. He said, I've heard this for years, and he said, but finally, I actually lived it. He was walking down the street there, and in front of him along the sidewalk, what looked like a drug deal gone bad, and there were two men standing there fighting each other with fists swinging. It just was really nasty. And he said he just walking down the sidewalk, and as he got near them, the two men stopped fighting. They just stopped fighting and both stood back, and he walked right through them and went on his way. And he said after he had gone by, the two men started fighting again. And he said, I've never seen anything like that, never experienced anything like this. And he was telling us that this was a real lesson for him, that, wait a minute, there's something to this principle, that when you're not being violent yourself, that there's a tendency for people around you to not be violent. Is kind of true? Yeah. I won't tell you why, but we know it's true.
Yeah. I know another story of John Leonardo.
Tell John Leonardo.
No,
he would not mind.
You know, he works at his high school in the Bronx.
Oh, beautiful! Yes.
And so I guess he had like lunch had to be one of the attending teachers that kind of overlooked when they were having lunch. He teaches
high school.
Yeah, in the Bronx, in New York City, and
his particular school is one that has big fences around it and gates and metal detectors and all of this.
And so,
but he loves his students.
Yeah, very much, and they love him. And so he was at the side of this whole lunch spectacle, and apparently two girls started catfighting with each other in the middle of lunch break. And so John was telling us when he told that story that he was aware of his self. He was abiding in that awareness as much as he can, and so he walked towards them very calmly, very peacefully, and all he did was stand next to them and shook his head, and instantly the girls stopped fighting.
Yeah. It's a neat story.
And then he understood also this principle.
This is the principle. Yeah. There's something to it. And then we each in our own lives can develop our own little stories where we run into this. Wow, there's something to this. Yeah. And it may not be perfect. So, John
was not self-realized in the sense of, but he was aware of the self. That's what I was trying to say. He was aware of that which is beyond mind to his best of his capacity.
I don't think we need to go through every paragraph unless you want to. Ahimsa brings peace from others. Those are those stories. Mm-hmm. Non-harming does not mean love. Non-harming means what it says, non-harming. The idea is if you and I refrain from pushing against other people, then it will open the doorway to love. It's not that the opposite of harming. It's not that non-harming literally is love. It does not mean love. In Sanskrit, the word prem is love. Yeah. But non-harming is literally what it says. First cause no harm.
But again, if you cease the harming and cease the pushing and cease the hurting.
Cease. S-E-I-Z-E or C-E-A-S-E?
That latter.
Cease. Stop.
Cease. When it ceases to, then naturally the love that's ever present comes forward.
Yeah, there you go. That's the principle. And this is not new here. When I wrote this section here, this principle in Sutras 33 and 34 is so important to understand that I literally copied and pasted it with each one of the yamas and the niyamas. So it's very repetitive and it's intentional.
Good.
So every one of them, with each of the yamas and niyamas, cultivating the opposite.
In case of not harming, one might have the inclination toward harming, hurting, or injuring others to various degrees, so as to get what one wants. In cultivating the opposite, or reminding oneself that such behavior, words, or thinking will not only bring personal misery and suffering, the ensuing letting go process allows a natural demeanor towards which others drop any feelings of hostility or ill will.
Remember the story that Raj just told us about the political conversation. Notice what happens if you're in a political conversation with somebody who has views that are vastly different than yours. And if we can somehow soften our own negative attitude in that sense with that other person, if we can soften that, then something nice can start to happen.
As truthfulness such is achieved, the fruits of actions naturally result according to the will of the yogi. So everything is in alignment. So
the more truthful I am, the more the world conforms to my sense of what is proper and right and fair.
Yeah, which is selfless, is not based on I want. For one who increasingly practices honesty or truthfulness in action, speech, and thoughts, his or her will is naturally fulfilled.
And here we go again. Here's
so
the
in
same
case of
thing.
Truthfulness, one might have the inclination towards dishonesty to various degrees, so as to get what one wants. In cultivating the opposite, or reminding oneself that such behaviors, words, or thinking will not only bring personal misery and suffering, the ensuing letting go process allows a natural flow of goodness or positive fruits to come.
Yeah, that's the spirit of it. You want to go through any of that? We can go through it.
No, I'm just waiting for the cue.
The cue?
To say something or to read it or not. If you click it, I'll read it. If you don't click it, I don't read it.
Well, just this part here is catching my attention.
Okay, truth is...
What is truth? What is being, when we say being truthful, what does it mean, truth?
Truth is
concurrence
between thought, word, and deed.
Alignment. So thoughts, the words that come out of my mouth, and the actions that I do are in alignment with one another.
It must be true to fact and at the same time pleasant. If by speaking the truth another is hurt, it ceases to be truth and becomes himsa.
If I say, Matri, I have some constructive criticism for you. I think you are really being a jerk. It's not very nice, is it?
No.
There's not a concurrence. There's not a, what was the other word I used? There's not an alignment, huh?
Alignment.
There's not an alignment. It's just nasty. One of the ways that I have heard this said, and I'm saying this as if it's totally true, and it's not, but there's something to it. And I don't remember who I first heard make this observation, but that in a very broad, general kind of way, in India, ahimsa comes first and satya comes second. First comes non-harming, second comes truthfulness. And here in the US, we typically reverse that. First, we say, I'm going to be totally honest with you, and then we proceed to beat up on the other person. And so what is the sequence in which we do that? And I'm just saying that because I've heard somebody tell me this, and there's something to the principle. Think about it. I need to give you, I can remember in the 1970s, long before I was doing this stuff in this kind of way, there was a thing going through the employment, the human resource industry in the country, before they even called it human resources. And there was a phenomenon that came up that was called constructive criticism. And when an employee was given an appraisal by an employer on their job performance, it became one of the things that the personnel human resource people were taught, to give the people constructive criticism. And since so many people were not very good at actually doing that, it was not constructive at all. So a person would start by saying, Ma, I'm going to give you some constructive criticism. And then I tell her you're really screwed up. And it's not constructive at all. It's just cruel.
Yeah.
Cop out what?
Cop out to say anything if you just prelude it with that sentence.
Yeah. Anyway. I don't know. I think we talked about it.
When non-stealing asteya is established, all jewels or treasures present themselves or are available to the yogi.
Yeah, these extra big paragraphs, if you're curious, I mean, I hope you come back and look at them, but we're trying to not go into all the details.
When non-stealing asteya is established, all jewels or treasures present themselves or are available to the yogi. In other words, when the heart is pure, all means will come. In the case of non-stealing, one might have the inclination towards taking from others to various degrees, so as to get what one wants. In cultivating the opposite, or reminding oneself that such behaviors, words, or thinking will only bring personal misery and suffering, the ensuing letting go process allows a natural flow of material and non-material positive benefits to come, those which will help on the journey of life. When walking in the awareness of the highest reality, brahmacharya, is firmly established, then a great strength, capacity, or vitality is acquired.
Yep, there you go. And that's remembering the Brahman. Now, this is the one that is often gets translated as celibacy in the sense of only don't have sex. And that's not what it says. It's remembering Brahman, remembering the infinite pure consciousness. And by doing that, strength comes. Why is that? Because we're not dissipating our strength. And just one of the ways in which that happens is allowing sexual desires to be dissipated in unhealthy ways. And so it ends up being misinterpreted in that one aspect of sensory enjoyment gets elevated to being the subject of what brahmacharya is about. And it can end up where it's clouding over what the subtler meaning is. If we are cultivating constant awareness of truth, reality, God, divine consciousness, Brahman, that's the actual word, Brahman, if we're cultivating that awareness, then what happens is we end up gaining vigor, strength. We become stronger people and are not dissipated.
It's the second of those 5, Shraddha Virya Smriti.
Yeah.
Samadhi Prajna.
Which is in Sutra 20.
Yes. By remembering the highest energy or force of reality, that energy is then not dissipated. As it is not dissipated, it is as if it is growing, acquired, attained, or gained. Thus, we appear to gain virya, which is strength, vigor, vitality, and courage. Actually, virya is an aspect of our subtle nature, which has been there all along.
We're just not dissipating it. So that's the spirit. How do you not dissipate energy? Remember Brahman. Yeah. Brahman is not the name of a god. Brahman is the name that is the significator, the label, if you will, of the infinite non-dual consciousness and all that stuff. And so once again, we might have the inclination to forget this thing of being mindful of the higher truth. And so when we forget that and we get consequences where we get lost in our senses, we catch ourselves and we say, I have said to myself, I'm going to cultivate what we keep talking about often is constant awareness of truth or reality. If you like to hold it in a religious context, you can say God or whoever you think God is. That works too. We say that I'm going to do that, and when I don't do it, I end up in trouble. And so I'm reminding myself, oops, I just tripped again, and it happened. I don't beat up on myself, but that what I need to do is bring this back and cultivate the awareness of that in infinity, and then there will be a natural flow of energy, and I feel back on track again. Sometimes when we forget that awareness, I have this happen with people who will have this kind of awareness. Say, I want to talk because things are going pretty bad for me right now. And often what happens after such a conversation, a person says, I remember. And suddenly I just remembered that all that has happened to me is that for the last few days, I have forgotten. I have forgotten all about sadhana. And all of a sudden, I feel so much better now. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Because now I remember. Once again, I remember. 3 days ago, I was pretty much on track. My meditations were good. I had a clear mind. Things were going pretty okay. And then I got sidetracked in my senses and I forgot. And now I remember again. Actually, pretty simple. Doesn't make it easy.
When one is steadfast in non-possessiveness or non-grasping with the senses, parigraha, there arises knowledge of the why and wherefore of past and future incarnations.
It has to do with remembering our samskaras. We start to remember the deep habit patterns that we have, and it tells us something about where we're coming from and where we're going. Pretty straightforward principle. Okay?
Yeah. Through cleanliness.
Now we're into the niyamas.
Yeah. Shall we keep that for next week? No?
Let's see where
Through cleanliness and purity of body and mind, Saucha, one develops an attitude of distancing or disinterest towards one's own body and becomes disinclined towards contacting the bodies of others.
Now, if we misread this, it can sound very cold. It can sound very anti-be in the world. It can sound anti-body. I am not my body. It's a bad body. And, ooh, you're a dirty old body. I don't want to hang out around you. Yeah, a germ pool. And so that's not it. Let us not do that. And we goofed up. We've been meaning to show this to you, and we've been robbing you of that. But what the positive side of this is, we increasingly realize that I have a body. I need to take care of my body because it is the temple in which I live. But we become more and more aware that it's not who I am.
That? No, up. There's more comments.
Oh, there's more. Thank you. Constant awareness. Oh, yes, constant awareness of the reality. Yes. Thank you. We're a little bit sluggish, slow. I'm a little bit slow about getting that up there for you. So it's not antibody, and when it says and becomes disinclined toward contacting the bodies of others, something changes in the orientation. It's not that there is this craving to hang out with the other bodies. Of course, there's a Matri, and she's a wonderful person and like that. And it's nice to have her in the body and all like that. But increasingly we remember through the purifying of my own body and through the purifying of my own mind, I more and more naturally realize that she is Atman. Mm. She is not merely this body, and she is not merely...
It's a nice garment, though.
It's a nice garment, and she's not her mind and her personality and all that, and neither am I. And listen to the beauty that happens. This is the principle of this. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we forget. So what do we do when we forget? We have the inclination to not do this stuff. And so what do? We remind ourselves. And when we remind ourselves, there is a natural flow of the inner reality of the divine that comes.
Also through cleanliness and purity of body and mind, Saucha, comes a purification of the subtle mental essence, sattva, a pleasantness, goodness, and gladness of feeling, a one-pointedness with intentness, the conquest or mastery over the senses, and a fitness, qualification, or capability for self-realization.
The purifying is happening.
Hi, Joao.
Joao says hi. Hi. And so here it enumerates, what we just read is enumerating 5 more benefits that comes. And here again we have cultivating the opposite. We might have an inclination towards ignoring the cleansing, and we're lost in the external world. We don't take care of our body and mind. What do? Remind ourselves it's the wrong direction. And what happens? A pleasantness, goodness, and gladness of feeling. One-pointed lightness, conquest, or mastery. Things get better. Santosh.
From an attitude of contentment, santosh, unexcelled happiness, mental comfort, joy, and satisfaction is obtained.
That's a pretty cool thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
We humans seem to always be seeking satisfaction in the external world and our internal fantasies. Only when we comfortably accept that we currently have what we currently have, we are able to do in the practices lead to the highest realization. I have enough. I don't need more. I have contentment. If I have contentment, I can live a pretty good life. I can enjoy taking a walk. I can enjoy having a nice conversation. I can enjoy satsang, being together with other people. I have what I need to develop a life of meditation. Pretty simple, isn't it?
You take it as it comes.
And you take it as it comes, yes. Sometimes we have an inclination towards discontent and restlessness. We all know that, don't we? So what do? We remind ourselves that this has taken me in the wrong direction. And what happens when we get in the right direction? The flow of contentment starts coming back. There we go. And the thing there we read just a moment ago about senses, now we come to tapas, which is literally about training the senses.
Through ascesis, or training of the senses, tapas, there comes a destruction of mental impurities and an ensuing mastery or perfection over the body and the mental organs of senses and action. Indriyas.
Yeah, now we may not like to train our senses. We all know this. We have smelling, tasting, seeing, touching, and hearing, and we all are in the habit of using our sensory input. The classic one is taste of food. It's such a good example. We like our favorite junk food. And so what we have to do is train ourselves to not keep getting sucked into getting lost in these senses. It's not easy. And tapas literally translates as fire. So we ride through the emotional storm of, you can call, withdrawal from bad habits. We all know this. that you're changing a bad habit, there's an emotional withdrawal that comes from it. We feel emotional response to that, don't we?
Mm.
And it's about the removal of the
even Raj's story was basically that, where he.
That's the story Raj told. It's
where
training.
He noticed the habit and training gradually. From self-study and reflection on sacred words, Vijaya, one attains contact, communion, or concert with that underlying natural reality or force.
The most important thing about this one is remembering that when it talks about study, it does not mean study of books and going to class and studying more and more books of information. We use the books to learn how to study ourselves. And when it talks about reflecting on sacred words, every one of these words in every one of the sutras is what it's talking about. But this is a cookbook. We're supposed to be applying these words into our introspection of ourself. That's the real key to this. It's about self-study. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And we might have the inclination away from inner reflection and study of teachings so as to focus on attaining what I want in the worldly sense. We remind ourselves this is going in the wrong direction. And what do we get? Natural contact, communion with the higher reality. It leads us in the right direction.
From an attitude of letting go into one's source, Ishvara Pranidhana, the state of perfected concentration, samadhi, is attained.
Note here that the word samadhi is literally in the sutra. And so what is the key to the samadhi? Letting go. Practicing the presence, dedication, devotion, surrender of fruits. Constant awareness. And this word Ishvara, we've talked about this a lot before. Swami Rama has elsewhere told us some pretty clear stuff about it. It's a tricky word because it's very easy to accidentally take the yogic term Ishvara, look at a dictionary and translate it into English and say that the word Ishvara means only big G-O-D, and then we project onto the word Ishvara all of the meanings of God that we were taught in our childhood, and that's simply not what the yogis are talking about. We are trapped in sensory attachments, exactly right, and this is what we're trying to undo. So these yamas and niyamas, these are principles. These are principles, and there's no end to the individual insights that we may gain from going through these.
And from actually observing them in daily life.
And this is a key reason that in this section of the Yoga Sutras, I did not try to go and create volumes, books, writing. You could write many books about yamas and niyamas, and then we could have debates over the meanings of them. And we can end up getting lost in the details of studying what's said. The yamas and niyamas simply must be studied internally. There's no escaping that. If we study it only at an intellectual level, the value is almost zero. I know that's a strong statement, but these need to be internalized. It's one of the kind of things like what Raj told the story there, and Matri told a couple of stories of what John had mentioned as a high school student. These are where we learn these, by living our own lives and living our stories and sharing stories with one another. We gradually learn more and more and more about each of the yamas and the niyamas. That's where the key is.
That's the end.
And here is this thing. We're not going to read it right now. I put this quote here again, where Swami Rama described from what God is, what Ishvara is. This is directly quoted from Swami Rama on Ishvara. We're not going to go through it again here. We just went through it, I think, last time.
Mm-hmm,
but it's a very important point to understand that the yogic principle of Ishvara is not the same as big G-O-D of the religions. It has to do with I and my habit patterns emerged out of the universal ground. And I need to train myself to let go of my false identities and return back to the ground consciousness from which they emerged. And in terms of our picture, it's these. Everything emerged out of this infinite ocean of consciousness. It emerged outward, and I manifested outward like this. And so I am allowing all of that to surrender back to where it came from. Here's another little picture postcard that is of 4 people, ... See the little dotted line down there? It's the symbol that there's an Atman, there's an Atman, there's an Atman, there's an Atman. But they all came out of the same ground that's called Brahman. You see the principle there? It's the same little circle charts, but we got 4 of them. Now just imagine there's an infinity of them. And so we're allowing everything to recede back into that ground from which it came. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, say something wise, Ma.
Om Tat Sat.
Om Tat Sat.
Have fun with cooking with the Yamas and Niyamas.
Thank you. Very nicely said. Have fun with cooking with the Yamas and the Niyamas. Have fun cooking with them. Remember, this is a cookbook. Yoga Sutras is a cookbook.
Make some ahimsa cookies.
Ahimsa cookies. I like that. It's a nice idea. Ahimsa cookies. Ahimsa cookies.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And some Asteya cookies that you are
and
not
some
stealing
Asteya
from
cookies.
others.
I like that idea. Cookies. Cookies named. That there would be a nice modern business idea. Make Yamas and Niyamas cookies.
Mm-hmm.
And in a box, you gotta have a box of 10 cookies, and you have
that reminds me of a bar of chocolate that has a bite already out of it, and saying that it's we're always, what was the philosophy? Oh wait, no, there's a chocolate bar in Holland that is made by a man that tries to make the chocolate slave free, and the chocolate pieces are not the same size because the world is not equally divided, which is very inconvenient for breaking the chocolate. Someone gets a bigger piece. You've had it in Holland.
I don't remember.
In Holland, I always broke it already. But the pieces are not the same size because the world is just not equally divided. Some get a little more, some get a little less. So some get a little more of a piece of chocolate.
And the connection of that to,
I don't know,
to the Yamas and Niyamas cookies is
that you can check if you're going for the big one, if you can go.
I'm getting confused.
No, I was just remembering of that. It's not really related.
It's not really.
It's try to get higher concepts into food. Maybe that's the relationship. Yeah, it's trying to bring awareness.
I thought it was just trying to have some good cookies.
I see. Yeah.
You want me to do tapas and get over cookies?
Yeah, and watch and practice
non-tasting of cookies.
Non-possessiveness of
non-possessive,
the cookies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Aparigraha, non-possessiveness of cookies.
He said, writes that I will make an Ishvara Pai Nidana.
An Ishvara Pai Nidana. That's cute.
Yeah. Definitely eggless.
And Jean likes it. Jean said Om. Thank you, Roseanne. Thank you all for playing. You're
Enjoy
going to
conscious
move to
deep sleep.
Now do it consciously, Roseanne. Yeah, it's a perfect opportunity when you're head down to be aware of the transition from waking into dreaming.
There's actually some great cookie recipes in the list that doesn't have any animal nor any oils.
Yes, eggless.
Definitely eggless.
Definitely eggless.
We got some thank yous from a few people.
Thank you all for playing.
And Johnny was here.
Johnny was here, lurking in the background quietly.
Okay.
I'm getting my hat put back on. Are we going? We're going shopping. We have to go over
get bananas
to buy bananas for breakfast. We ate all the bananas. I think there's one banana left, and there's not enough. Huh.
I don't eat bananas in the morning. I don't have to go into the cold.
Oh, well, I can go. You don't have to
No,
go.
Just kidding. Yes, working on it. Good. Enjoy deep sleep. Hi, Eileen also.
Eileen has been there. Hi, Eileen.
Johnny was witnessing. I need to go to the bathroom.
And Abigail. I'm Abigail Riggenbach. Do you know Abigail Riggenbach? I don't place your name, Abigail.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Peace.
Peace. Peace. Peace. Peace. Resist. Resist. It reminds me of, if you know who that is, you'll appreciate the humor of that. If not, it's not humorous at all. It's just a silly, silly thing. Anyway, so thank you for playing. Have a nice meditation, please, okay? Peace. Om Tat Sat. Om. There's the Om. And find the silence that's after the Om. I hope you don't get tired of me saying that. And that's called Sat, or existence. Therefore, Om Tat Sat. Okay. Bye-bye, all. I'm pushing the button, Roseanne. I pushed the first button. Now I have to push the second button. 3, 2, Om Tat.